wherever, your store or whatever it is. But with EFRIS, it's just an application that you can use a gadget just within your hands and know how much stock do I have here. Can I transfer this stock from one outlet to another? For those who have more than one outlet. So ideally, it makes your work simpler. It reduces the cost of doing business in one or the other. You may not need probably somebody to file for you that VAT account, VAT return, because when you're on EFRIS, now URA does it for you. It does everything. Your work is you just log in and submit. So we are trying to see how we are making it simpler and doable for this client out there who is VAT registered.
Okay. Yes. So what are the different channels or modules of EFRIS?
Ideally, when we rolled out EFRIS, we were cognizant of the fact that we are addressing it to different businesses and they are into different sectors. So we provided a number of channels. We have the system-to-system integration, because when you look at VAT registration, as I had initially told you, it looks at clients who have 150 million and its excess. So these are companies or entities that are somewhere, and ideally they could have existing ERPs or existing billing and receipting systems. I don't want them to abandon them, but what I need is to seemingly integrate their existing billing and receipting system to the one of URA, so that they can seemingly work without any interference. So that is also there. And ideally, system-to-system integration does not integrate on a package that is pirated. We basically advocate for original packages, because at the end of the day, this is somebody's intellectual property, and these are their brains. So we may not want to go the other side of court if we advocate for what is not right. So system-to-system, ideally it's there as a standalone, but what URA did when we rolled out is to accredit software integrators. We entered into an MOU with a number of software integrators. I think now we have about 46 on the portal. When you go on our portal on www.ura.go.ug, you will just go to domestic taxes, then you will see EFRIS there, then you'll see agents there, then you'll click, you will see where we have the software integrators, and you could look through and make a choice and engage any of your choice to see how to help you. We have the desktop application where we give you a link that is put on your desktop, on your machine, on your laptop, on your iPad. That one can also help you. We have the portal itself. When you log on to the portal with your TIN and password, then you go where there is invoicing. Ideally, you'll be on the EFRIS platform. But the portal is meant for clients who have few transactions a day. Because at times, since it's a direct connection of internet, it's a little shaky when it comes to working on it. So that's where that will be done. Then we have the mobile app. Ideally, with the mobile app, you can use your phone once you have your login credentials. Once it's powered by internet, then it can also help you. And you can basically use EFDs, electronic fiscal devices. These are basically meant for those who do sales, those who are in business hubs that are busy, because you do not need to install a computer, then maybe a printer. For example, an EFD really has a printer that is embedded in the machine, as we will see moving forward. But for the mobile app, you will need a thermal printer at the end of the day to connect to the mobile app via your phone, so that you can be able to print.
So we provided a number of channels where the client has to self-serve themselves. What works for them, what works for the business, then they can connect and work on that.
Okay. So you already said EFD. What is EFD in full?
Ideally, electronic physical device. It's
Electronic because you charge it electronically. Fiscal because ideally the transactions within here will have a tax component, and it's a device.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So, like we say, this is one of the practical. We're starting a series of practical webinars. Not starting really, but we are just doing it again because we're going to
Keep educating, that as we pledged to the public, and we wanted to go through the different EFRIS modules in a practical way. And we're starting with this EFD machine. So I think if you're ready, you have some.
Is what I am holding.
Okay.
This blue machine. This is just paper that it uses to print. As the computer or laptop may require the F4 via a printer, a standard printer here, you'll use these small papers, and they are a little cheaper because a roll goes for about 2,000 or 3,000. So ideally, this is my machine. This is the EFD. It has a button here that will make the screen live for you.
Okay.
Ideally, here I should imagine that you have a tin and maybe you have your password. But here I'm using what I have for the machine. And here on password, we are just going to make sure that we put our password here. So this is the password I have here. Then we go to login. It's giving me such a screen. Ideally, when you're even using your laptop or your computer anywhere, you will see all these fields. When we talk about invoice issuance, this is where you go when actually you've gotten a client and you're making a sale. Then invoice inquiry, you are basically inquiring about the invoices that have been issued. You're the business owner, for example, and you need to know what have they issued in the whole day. Frequent contacts. Here on frequent contacts, you can save these repeated clients and normally come to you.
Okay.
Instead of probably just knowing that maybe Gabriel comes to me, Peter comes to me, you just go to frequent contact, save their tins. So that this person at the teller who is working, when that person comes, they do not need to ask them for what their tin is. Because at times when you ask somebody of their tin, they can make an error. And at the end of the day, you may need to issue a credit note. So you save the things there so that they just pick and issue. So here we have goods and services, maintenance, and this is where the stockings are done.
Okay.
Because if you're dealing in goods, ideally you need to stock them on EFRIS. Because the system needs to feel that I am dealing in this good, then too, which particular good and what quantity.
Yeah.
So that you can even know when stocks go low. Then here, credit notes and debit notes. EFRIS is very flexible in a way that when an invoice has an error, and probably you need to make the invoice value go low,
You need to raise a credit note. That means the invoice value is going low. And ideally, debit note does the reverse. Maybe
somebody ordered 4 items and you invoiced few and you need to increase, it's the debit note that will do that for you. So moving forward, here we are still here on statistics. These are the different reports that the system gives you. Because the system helps you to give you reports, then you can be able to pick how have I performed
in terms of sales, in terms of this, and all that. It could give you a summarized report. It could give you a detailed. So here, since we are basically wanting to know how to issue an invoice, you tap here on invoice issuance. Let me imagine I'm in Chikubo down there, I'm in Natete Hub down there, I'm in Nasana, the business hub, and this client comes to me, I'm VAT registered. This is how I go about with this machine. Then I'll need to get the tin of that client I am invoicing. This is where you put it. So let me input a tin here. So this is the tin I have put here. So at the end of the day,
you'll wait for the system, you click anywhere on the page, the system needs to auto-populate. It auto-populates for you the names. This is where you confirm that actually my client is these names, so that you don't make an error. Because even an error over 10 will cause the credit not to be issued.
Yes.
Because you invoiced the wrong person. One will not take that particular document. So at the end of the day, I'm going here to next so that the page can give me the next here. So once I have this screen you see here, implying that I stocked in, I need to go where I stocked in so that I can look for what this client needs to buy so that I invoice it.
Okay.
So I'll click here on add. So when I click on add, the system will pour down all that it has. So these are some of the configurations and the stocking ins that were done against this client's tin in EFRIS.
Okay.
So here when I am searching, let me go and search, and I pick one item. I'm picking this item called automotive gas oil. This is the oils you use. This is the fuel station that equally even could have a supermarket on it.
Okay.
And we are picking oil, the oils you use to do service on a vehicle. And ideally these oils are standard rated.
Okay.
What you need to note when I'm looking at a supermarket, the fuel itself is not vatable, but the oil, the lubricants are vatable. That is why when you're looking at this, I'll need to know how many liters, because it's sold in liters. So here I am going to say maybe I need 10 liters, as you see. I configured each liter at 2,300, and ideally if they are 10, it will be 23,000. I think you see the VAT rate down there. It has given you the VAT rate because this is a vatable good.
Okay.
So here I am going to save. So once I save this here, it's asking you, do you need to invoice any other? Just imagine we are in a supermarket. You go to a supermarket and on your trolley there are about 10 items. How do they do it? They go back to add. They keep adding, they keep adding, they keep adding until all the items are done. But for this, I only need this because I'm buying only engine oil, only that oil for service. So here I'm going to go to generate invoice. When I go to generate invoice, it is telling me you have selected currency as UGX, that's Uganda shillings. Your invoice gross amount is 23. Are you sure you want to generate? The reason why we put there these questions is if you've done something accidentally, we don't want you to submit because you're in a busy place and you probably didn't know. So by the time we ask you this question, that means when you read it, you confirm an answer. So I say, okay.
So when I say, okay, I think you see the machine is moving up here. What is it doing? It was printing. It was printing the e-invoice.
Yeah.
So when it prints the e-invoice, I think you see the question that we have on screen there. Do you want to issue another invoice with the same buyer details?
It's asking me. In case I don't, I will say no. It will return me on that page. But maybe we need to show the client this particular invoice that is issued. It looks like this. This invoice has the URA logo here. And ideally, for any entity, you can even do some editing. You can do some editing in IT and you even include your logo here against URA's logo. It is allowed once you want to customize your invoice. So it talks about the tin of the client issuing. Then it talks about the names. They are here as you have seen them. Let's move down a bit. Then it will talk about the
physical document number. I think you see here where I have FDN, it is these numbers. here. I think it has about 12 digits. I think it's about 12 digits. Code. The verification code is equally system generated like the FDN. Then I will move on down here to particulars. The tin. This invoice has been issued to somebody called Hafsa. This is the buyer. That is why I want this buyer to ask for an invoice, because ideally this is their purchase. And the fact that they've paid VAT within this purchase, they will equally need it, because at the end of the day, they will also need to file when the month ends if they are VAT registered. So when I move down, this is just an elaboration of what you have bought. I think you will see here the net amount. It will give you the net amount here. Then it will give you the amount before VAT. Because here in this particular invoice, if I could put it like this, it's very clear. It will show you, I think let's zoom clearly. The net amount means this is the amount before VAT. That's a 19,491 point, those cents. Then the tax amount, this is the VAT within that particular transaction. Then gross is the 23. I think at the beginning you saw us having 23,000.
Yes.
Because at the time of stocking in, this person indicated a price that is inclusive, because they are dealing with a standard rated good, and secondly they need to invoice inclusive of VAT. So the last feature down here, what you see, this dotted print, is what we call the QR code. So ideally, at the end of the session, I think we have looked at the 3 features of an invoice. I think if you could zoom from up so that one can see where we saw the physical
Run it from the top.
document number from here, where we saw the physical document number, we saw it somewhere here. Then we saw the verification code. Then down here we are seeing the QR code. Ideally, these are the 3 standard features of a physicalized document, of an e-invoice or an e-receipt. Because the difference in between an e-receipt and an e-invoice is very clear. My e-receipt does not have VAT, because it is meant to be issued by persons who want to operate on the EFRIS platform but are not VAT registered. But those that are VAT registered automatically will be issuing an e-invoice that has VAT, and this is the sample of what we call an e-invoice. So ideally, it's as simple as this. When you're seated in your shop somewhere down there on Nabugabo, in Chikubo, on Ham Shopping, in Nakasero, the hardware dealers. This is a simple application that you can use. Buy this machine, you give it to your staff who remain at the shop. Your work is to just log in via your phone when probably you're at home, and you monitor your business. While they are selling, you can see how much they've sold in a given day. So ideally, we can be moving together, and definitely once this is done within the day, there won't be any penalty, because what URA expects of you as you sell, kindly invoice. Okay, you may say network has an issue maybe within the time I've sold, but at least before the day closes, ensure that you have invoiced in such a way so that it picks the dates of when that activity happened. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. That was a very practical, looks very easy to me. I think that eases the process for most of the people. So let's maybe talk about other things. How can someone acquire that device?
Thank you very much. When URA rolled out EFRIS, it was cognizant of the fact that these machines need to be availed. So URA went ahead to accredit a vendor called Rank Consult. They are located in the industrial area to be issuing these devices. But ideally still, when you equally log on the portal in your EFRIS account, once you want such a device, it will give you a provision, a pop-up window where it tells you if you want to apply for a device within your EFRIS account. But if all that fails, okay, in Kampala, kindly locate us on Boulevard. We have representatives of Rank Consult whom we sit with. They can help you get this particular device in real time so that you can use it. But not forgetting that it's not for free. It goes for 1.1 and ensure that they equally also give you an e-receipt or an e-invoice because it will have VAT. Because at the end of the day, when you're filing your return for the month in which you bought this, we give you credit of the VAT that you paid within this device.
Okay.
So ideally, it reduces what you would have paid to URA in a given month.
All right.
And they do maintenance, they do the after sales services. It's done by one entity so that we can create order when we are using the devices.
Okay. Some questions are coming in already, and I'll start with the one about concerns of electricity and data.
Thank you very much. Electricity and data. Ideally, I think before even we rolled out EFRIS, let's be a little fair.
We had some small applications we were using. We had that customable program, that customable package on computer we were using. Didn't we used to use electricity? You know, there are certain things that are given because it's like I tell you, I am giving you a provision of a mobile app to use EFRIS on a mobile app. Then you ask me about electricity. Sincerely, you've been charging me before EFRIS.
Using WhatsApp.
And it is the same. You use even WhatsApp that doesn't have a benefit to your business. Here I'm bringing something that could have a benefit to your business. And you use data, you move the video from one end to the other. Let us try to get some small data. This is a business expense. Once you buy this data and acquire a receipt, maybe that's the difference. Do not just do like this and you get data while you're getting it from your phone. At the end of the day, I may fail to get a document that justifies that expense.
It's a business expense.
But if you know you are going to use the maybe data or maybe 50,000 a month, just go and purchase it in maybe MTN, Airtel, so that you get an invoice in your names.
In the business names.
Business.
Yes.
So that at the end of the day, that particular expense, you'll find it in your return.
And
When
it's
you have
deductible, allowable.
auto-calculated, exactly, and it will help you reduce. So there are some things that would say electricity and data. Ideally, people already had packages managing their business. Since the origin, the machines used to use electricity. They used to. But this is also another. And secondly, if internet has an issue when you're working, this machine has an offline mode. Do not fail to sell or to transact. Just go to the offline mode and start working.
Okay.
So that at the end of the day, when it is fine, you just migrate everything and it comes back to the online.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to ask, how when you charge the device, because I can see you're using it without connecting it.
Ideally, it's like your phone. You can charge your phone depending on how busy your phone is. There are people who are always on the phone. Definitely the charge will go off. Not long. But if you're not always on it, you only go on when maybe there's a client. I guess it will take you some time and maybe you'll need to charge in the course of the day. So that is why I had to do a live demo when it's not in power, so that somebody can actually confirm that it's not meant to be in power like a computer, like maybe a desktop. No, you charge, then move with it. It's just in your hands like this. Move with it, and it's very comfortable in moving with it. You can keep it somewhere in your drawer when you're in business, and we do business well.
Okay. Actually, the fact that it's also portable, there are people who are saying, what about those people who get something and they move with it?
Ideally, it's also meant for root sales. You know, there are companies that have marketing strategies. There's a marketing strategy called root sales, whereby I will get these small vehicles and put my merchandise there.
Yes.
And I go into the suburbs, into the rural setup. Ideally, I can't expect you to be on that truck and there's a laptop somewhere. It will even get broken.
Yeah.
But this machine can withstand everything.
Yes.
Very simple. The sellers are, whatever who are there, they just do the pa, then they issue this to the client. Then they move. They issue and move on. Just like that. It was meant for such conditions, by the way.
Okay.
Where maybe you're in a shop, you're about 5 people, you don't have space, you have just some small space for you.
Like this.
So in your drawer, this can fit there. Yes, you don't need to bring your CPU, you don't need to bring your desktop, and everything flies there. Yes.
So since you're on that topic, how do you compare it? What are the advantages that the EFD has over the other ones that you had mentioned, the system to system? Or who is it ideal for?
When I'm looking at an EFD compared to a system to system, ideally EFD is cheaper. When I'm looking at both of them, they all have offline modes. That is the beauty in it. And thirdly, it's easy to use. As we have demonstrated, it's easy to use, and it's portable, as you have seen, because ideally when you're in system to system, you'll need computers here and there, but here you only need one thing here. And thirdly, it does not need a computer connected to it because the computer is already embedded in it. So ideally, when I'm looking at a mobile app that will need a thermal printer just against it to help it complete the transaction, mine is very clear here. Once I clicked on generate invoice, it automatically generated and printed. So my duty is to just tear off this, give it to my client and move. Yes.
Remember, it's self-contained.
It's self-contained.
All right. Okay, so we get into other questions that I'm seeing here. There's someone called Finance Guru on X, and he's asking us to talk about the credit notes and the related challenges.
Credit notes, ideally, it is, I would say it is an avenue that whenever you're creating a system, you cannot be certain that whoever is using the system will be perfect. They are prone to errors, prone to this and that. Maybe they are returned inwards. You have delivered and a client tells you, my dear, this is
Damaged.
not the type of soda I told you, Tangawiz, you bought more of this. So ideally, some of them need to come back. And how are they coming back? Because stock is equally coming back. And when stock is coming back, it's going to reduce my invoice value. So that's why I have the credit note put there. But ideally, a credit note, if you want it to move a little smoother and faster, you who is initiating the credit note, kindly ensure that your more narrate what exactly happened. If it needs to attach something, attach a document because it has a provision in the application for you to attach, so that the questions I would have asked that back and forth to the client are already answered within the application. So that is basically what it is, but at times they could take a little longer because of maybe the volumes, but there is no harm in following it up with the office. If you put in a credit note for a week or two and you're not getting any response, at least follow it up with your area office and see what did I do right so that I can rectify it so that it gets the approval.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about the process just a little bit? When I make a credit note, where does it go?
Ideally, when you make a credit note, we improved on the system that is the system that acknowledges it because you make it through your EFRIS account. When the system acknowledges we have cut out that step, then it has two other major steps. One is the verification, and the other is the approval. But most of the work is done at verification because we want to actually be certain that what we are approving actually happened. So that is why at times we need to make phone calls the other side to the client you said you dealt with. We need to check in their return. We need to do this and that to ensure that actually your narrative here reads what the other party has. Even the type of items, because we say somebody purchased this, when I check with the other side, they don't deal in what you say they purchased. So that's checking here and there, the back and forth. At times may create some bit of delay, and at the end of the day, when it's done, then the approval is swift. It takes that day when it gets there.
All right.
Yes.
I think that answers finance gurus.
But maybe for credit notes, what I need probably to maybe inform our clients, we looked at some sectors and we gave them the leeway to approve the credit notes of their own. We looked at our clients in the large taxpayers office.
Okay.
Because one, they will have many credit notes depending on the volumes of transactions they have. Then two, they are easy to get. At least we can get them in case something goes wrong. So we can trust them that kindly approve in case you dealt with a party and you need to address it with a credit note, kindly go ahead and do so.
Okay.
But for the rest, we are still managing it because what we had discovered is our credit notes were more busy from the 27th to the 30th. And that leaves a question mark. Do we make mistakes at the same time? What does that answer? It answers the question that when I see my payable being high, let me address it with a credit note, so that it reduces my output VAT. At the end of the day, I'll be paying a little. So that is the most risky part, why we pulled back the credit notes to ourselves.
Yeah.
For the majority, unless for those few that maybe we can handle, we know where they are, we at least we have tried them and
their
tested
compliance.
them. Their compliance is at least good. We cannot fail to get them in case of anything.
Okay.
So apparently that is how we move our credit notes.
Okay.
Yes.
So again, there's a question about URA's duty with regard to data protection. Many taxpayers may be sensitive about adding their details. Do you have a comment on that?
Yes, because when we rolled out EFRIS on the 1st of July 2020, we addressed it because as this data is moving from your end to the URA side, we have APIs that we use, and they are meant to help us encrypt the data as it moves to URA, so that the hackers do not take advantage of URA, which is encrypted, such that it's not in a readable format. Then ideally, when I have made use of it in real time and sending it back to you in terms of an invoice, then along the way it will be decrypted, so that by the time it reaches you, it's in a readable format. So we provided for that. Moving forward, we have programming applications that are embedded in the program to ensure that we keep your data safe.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And also at the start you mentioned that it doesn't really work with the pirated.
Exactly, we don't,
so that
because
you can keep everything in check.
You will find the clients who have been using Tare. rules that are embedded in the MOUs we signed with our integrators. Because we don't want to go to court. So we made it very clear in the side MOUs. So once they do integrate, when it is pirated, I mean, we lift the veil. It is in between you and the integrator, not URA, because we are very clear and cognizant of the fact that, I mean, we need innovation. People need to think, they need to innovate.
Yes.
And after innovating, if we cannot respect what they've done, then it's absurd.
Yes.
So ideally, we provided for that. And we were very clear on that when we were engaging our software integrators.
At the time we were launching the program, we told them the do's and don'ts, and they are very well aware.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think that provides the protection that we are looking for. And then Trevor Ian Senyonjo again from X.
Saying this is a good initiative. Trevor, we appreciate good feedback. And then Mugisha Fred on YouTube is asking if he can deploy this EFD at a supermarket as my point of sale to issue fiscalized receipts.
Thank you very much, Mugisha. Yes, it wouldn't be bad, but we looked at the nature of business. When you look at a supermarket, it is from the time you open it, people are moving in, out.
So the most reliable channel for somebody in a supermarket is system integration. One, you have many items, and the many items my software system can handle. Because in a supermarket, for example, you'll find bread and there are 5 types of bread. You'll find soda and there are 8 types of soda. So those are just 2 items. Then by the time you're done with the whole supermarket, that is why we advise them that kind of use system. And secondly, they already had an existing billing and receipting.
So whoever had an existing billing and receipting system, whoever issues more than 100 transactions in a day, whoever has turnover of at least 2 billion and above, any of those 3, we push you to use system-to-system application because it will work for you without any interference. It has an offline mode. It's very comfortable. It's seemingly
well. You don't need to abandon your system. It just it just supports your system moving forward.
Okay.
Yes.
We have someone asking, why don't you tax the value added, but instead you tax the whole amount? A bit of EFD, but still on VAT.
Yes. Why do we tax?
Why don't you tax the value added?
Yes.
Instead you tax the whole amount.
Ideally, when you look at value addition, let me just look at, let me just give an example. I have food. This is a restaurant. But before preparing this plate of food, I'll bring the matoke, I'll bring the tomatoes, I'll bring the onions, I'll bring everything. So when these put together, there is a value that is added onto them to make this plate of food. So when I am bidding this plate of food, it is okay. You know how much it costed you to bring it to this level. You can say that my cost of the plate is 10,000. I'm comfortable with my profits and everything. But because I am VAT registered, you need to pick the 18% that has been added on this food. It is just twisting the language, but the explanation is the same. Because I can't get value added, because value added is already taxed, then I put tax on tax. I have to put tax on the item, on the cost of that. Exactly.
Then you balance.
Then I balance.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I think that answers. Then we have Mugisha Fred again saying, is it practical to use the CFD machine at my hardware or supermarket as opposed to the system integration done by an accredited integrator? I'm weighing up which option to deploy. I think we've answered that.
Maybe to reaffirm to Mr. Mugisha, if your business makes 2 billion and above as in annual turnover, or if you have more than 100 transactions in a given day, or if you already had an existing billing and receipting system. Any of this in 2022 through a public notice.
Yes.
So ideally it's already gazetted. Yes.
Okay. Then Kavuma Bernard is asking, URA should, or not asking, commenting, URA should incur the initial cost of buying the machine.
Yes, Mr. Kavuma, you're right. And as we rolled out in 2020, in 2022, we bought 400 EFDs. When we bought the 400 EFDs, the first place we went was Chikovo in Kampala. We called upon whoever is VAT registered and does not qualify for system to system, can come and we install their details, we help them out, start the EFD process. We got some, and some told us they can afford. Let us give those who can't afford. We moved on. They told us take to other bikubos like Nasa, Tete, where, take to Ginger, take to where. I went ahead and went to the public, on TV, on radio. Kindly, we have free EFD. If you're VAT registered, come to Boulevard. Then we can speak and know how to help you out. Those who had came. Those who wanted came. Then the machines got over. That's what I have to say. Apparently, they are not with yourself. Because maybe you don't see it's yours. Yes.
Okay. I think that answers that person. But also I think it's encouraging to know that they are allowable.
Exactly, because it's like any expense in business. Like you would have bought a laptop, you would have bought a generator, provided when you're buying that kind of asset or that purchase, ensure you give there your tin to whoever is selling to you, and if it has VAT within it, ask for an e-invoice. Because at the end of the day, these are the expenses I am going to populate in your VAT return. And okay, if you're not VAT registered, kindly ask for it, because at the end of the year, when you're filing your income tax return, this will justify the nature of expense that is there. What was it for? This was for maintenance, expense for the EFD. This was for the EFD. This is for data that I purchase on monthly basis for the EFT. Because I said when we are purchasing data, we stop these things of just tethering and it goes on your machine.
Yes.
There you may fail to get a receipt or an invoice in your names. Work out a plan and some issues. So we need to be a little smarter when we are managing our businesses.
Okay. Mujisha Fred is thanking you very much for answering his questions. He really appreciates it.
You're welcome.
Then Ivan is asking, what are the limitations of EFD machines, especially users in remote areas?
Ideally, you would say users in remote areas, but in the event that we embedded the offline mode, I would imagine the first pain in a remote area would be network coverage. So when you come to an area where network has 7 days, you have moved on to another area where we have clear network, and you migrate everything there.
Okay. But like you said, the same people in the remote areas have smartphones as well. Maybe they are doing, at least by the end of the day.
At times you cannot, it's not a given. People in remote areas still have the other button phones. And with the button phone, it may not be compatible to the application. Never know. Some have smart, some may not have smart. So it depends what is prevailing.
Okay. And then we have Kasim Seranja from Facebook asking, can't I buy this machine on Amazon because they are cheaper?
Thank you very much, because URA, when we rolled out, as I had initially told you, we had to accredit a vendor. So apparently now we have one vendor who is Rank Consult, but URA is looking at getting more than one vendors so that we have a variety, and we are basically moving it. Sooner or later we'll be telling you the other different vendors that will have come on board. But you buying it on Amazon ideally may have issues, because this same vendor has to configure this machine, has to do the settings in line with the EFRIS application. I don't know who will do all that for you when Amazon has sold and the transaction stops there, but who will do the configurations, the settings via EFRIS, the maintenance. It is a continuation of a service. That is why we prefer you purchasing from the ones we've accredited, because we have agreements that have to ideally help the clients. Yes.
Okay. We have Fulsome Life on YouTube asking, what if I am an importer who pays VAT at customs, but I don't qualify to be registered for VAT because I don't meet the 150 million threshold? How do I get a VAT refund when I register for EFRIS?
Thank you very much. One, registering for EFRIS does not mean that we are going to give you a refund. I said EFRIS is a smart application to help you invoice, do bookkeeping, monitor your stock. But at importation, when your transaction, your entry is into Uganda, customs has to assess what you have brought. And normally when it assesses the value onto that same value, the CIF value, that's when it picks the 18% VAT, the 6% WHC, and maybe others that may follow depending on the transactions and the goods you brought. At that particular time when you are paying VAT, it is very well you're clearing this entry or this good. And if you do not make the threshold for VAT, it remains a normal purchase that has VAT. So what you're going to do is to wait when you're filing your income tax return at the end of the year. You are going to bring that whole expense and expense it in income tax. Provided the import you are doing is a business import. Because you may be doing an import that you're buying a bed, you're buying this, you're buying that. Exactly, you're the final consumer. But if you are maybe buying goods and you're purchasing and they are coming into our business, do not worry. We give you a credit when it comes to income tax. That is part of your business expense. Make sure when you're filing, whoever is helping you to file, alongside the normal business expenses like rent, the trading licenses and all that, and maybe salaries of that 1-2 person that you work with, kindly include the taxes that you paid. Because we give you that as a credit, because it is all business.
All right.
Yes.
I think that answers Fulsome. Mogisha Fred is asking again, what technical challenges have been reported faced by businesses when using the EFD in their day-to-day operations?
I haven't heard of any, because ideally even the traders were saying one thing, that the machine is expensive. They haven't told me of any technical challenge. They're just saying it's expensive, and maybe things like data, but I think we've already discussed that. Things like data and electricity, but at least technical challenges I haven't had any, because it's a simple to use. And ideally when you even get issues, you could come back to URA, then our EFRIS team can see where the issues are to help you rectify. Then you go back and work.
Okay.
So at least for the technical bit of it, even URA can address it via the EFRIS.
Okay, I think we've answered most of the questions that have come in on the different platforms. Maybe now as we close, you can share any parting shots, any tips.
Maybe as we close, I would like to thank our clients for having logged in this morning. Secondly, to thank them for supporting URA, supporting the government by giving us taxes, and being in business. Being in business is no longer easy. There are many challenges there, but they've kept in there and they've given us the taxes. We don't take you for granted. Thank you very much for moving with us, for supporting government initiatives, because we need to pay taxes and URA needs to collect them, because government does not do any business. It does business within us. When I pay the payee, you pay the income tax. At the end of the day, we are putting in one basket. That's a consolidated fund. Then government can finance its recurrent expenditure and see that service delivery is felt up to the grassroots. I would like to thank you very much and see you yet another time of the Tax Mochuzi. God bless you as we develop Uganda together.
Thank you so much, Hafsa. Thank you all that have joined in this webinar. I hope it has been enlightening. I hope you've learned something. I hope you're now confident to use the machine. And for any questions, please use the different toll-free lines that you can see running through the screen. You can go to the website. You can also use what we call touchpoint here, the URA touchpoint. You can just go to a browser like Google Chrome and put URA touchpoint and write in detail, even upload evidence, pictures, documents, anything. You can use a WhatsApp line, all the social media platforms where we are. That's X, formerly Twitter, that's Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Basically, we're here to help you. Reach out to us so that we can answer your questions, so that we can help you, so that you embrace EFRIS and you get on board and have it easy in your business. Thank you so much for joining us and have a good day.
Oh yeah, Hilary Taja, yeah, mwana wa muka.
Andrew Music.
Munsi tusela blessing, eyange ngizo ile muliwe, omurungi aru.
Kumanya ruhanga ya gonde zensi.
Nyoene kayange ntukugiza mukama ruhanga wa Isirayeli nuwe ruhanga wange rwabeire na Daniyeli nensalo mukina nuwe ruhanga wange ndozere nakora nyoene kayange nsukugiza mukama ruhanga wa Isirayeli